So there are basically 5 types of ras, and these are happening again different times of the year and so on. So there's Maharas, which is sort of the biggest celebration of all. Maha means, grand. So then Vasantharas is typically during springtime, celebrating Vasant, holy, festival of colors.
Yes.
And in fact, Vasantharas is, we are depicting part of that in the Oneness celebration.
Okay.
Then there's Kunjaras. Kunjaras is, it happens during autumn. This is more, playing in the gardens and so on, Kunja. Then there's Nityaras. Nityaras is more kind of, the everyday.
This is Built by Grit, where we celebrate hard work, courage, and the people who never give up. Real journeys, real lessons, real grit. Let's get started. I'm your host, Deepa. Welcome back to Built by Grit, and today I'm in conversation with Mousumi Bose. Manipuri dance is often spoken of in terms of softness and grace, but beneath that softness lives devotion, structure, lineage, and a very quiet strength. Mousumi's work and teaching allow us to see Manipuri not just as a performance form, but as a lived tradition, one that holds spirituality, discipline, and vigor all at once. In this episode, we explore Raslila, the Guru-Shishya Parampara, and the often unspoken relationship between Manipuri dance and martial arts. So come in, settle in, and let's begin. Mousumi, thank you so much for being here today.
Absolutely. Thanks, Deepa, for having me.
So, before we get started, would you like to talk about your lineage and how did you learn Manipuri and what was the origin like?
Yeah. So, back in my childhood, again, I come from a home where, like many other Indian homes, dance was a bit of a taboo.
Mm.
And my father, like, we all learned Indian classical singing, but dancing was not so much, leniently looked upon. But my paternal aunt, she had trained in Manipuri
Mm.
and sort of instrumental in getting me introduced to this art. And she was able to actually talk to my father also about it, and somehow he gave in. And that's when my journey really began at the age of 9. And I was just a kid. I didn't really know much about different dance forms and so on. So I started my training with Srimati Gauri Datta,
Mm.
uh, who was a senior disciple of Guru Bipin Singh, who's
Okay.
actually also referred to as the father of modern Manipuri.
Mm.
So Gauri Di, again, I started with a bunch of, other kids, learning very basic steps and so on. And I continued that training, I think, till my 12th standard, till I
Mm.
was home. After that, I had to leave. I was in a residential engineering college and so on. And, as with other kids, uh, we got, I got busy with the education and so on and so forth. But 9 through, I think, 17, year 70, till I was 17 or 18, was when I actually pursued Manipuri actively. And this was all in Calcutta, where I'm from.
Mm. I was about to ask. Okay.
And then, in between the years, went to college. Then I moved out of Kolkata, moved to Bangalore
Mm.
for my work. And so those years, dancing itself took a bit of a hit. And then I came to the US. And after coming to the US, after I think the first 2 or 3 years, I basically wanted to just get back in touch with the cultural roots.
Mm-hmm.
And this is many years ago. We didn't really have, you know, a lot of dancing schools here back then.
Mm.
Forget, right? So luckily, I was able to actually find one of my dance mates who was from my dance school. She and I actually went to India. We went to the same Manipuri dance school.
Oh, okay.
So it was just kind of coincidental
Right.
that she worked here for a few years, and we actually, started practicing together just for getting back into the art. And we started practicing, and we didn't really even have all the proper costumes back then. But so we made our own costumes and so on, and performed here and there. And it was like it was really something that at that point of time I felt as an adult that, oh, I really love this. I mean, when you're younger, your parents are basically telling, well, you have to do this,
Yes.
or in my case it was my mom telling me at that time, well, you have to practice and so on. So yeah, but you don't understand how much you really love the art form. Always, like, you do it because you have to. But I think as an adult, when I went back to it, I was like, okay, this is something that um, it's almost as if I had lost something and I found it back again. And so you want
Mm,
to hold on to it. As an adult, of course, you have all of the other pressures of if you're working, if you have a family, and so on. So it's much harder. But then I think because you value it a lot more. I mean, or
mm.
rather, you understand the value of it because you are then making other sacrifices to hold on to that art form. So anyway, so with my this friend that I talked about, we got back into it, and then a couple of years from then, Chandri, who you talked to, who is also my co-lead for Manipuri in the Oneness production, she moved into the area. And so we kind of, started doing more collaboration work. First, it was uh, she and I, were the trained folks, but we managed to kind of, get more folks interested and train them and so on. And then slowly we started performing more at different performance venues here or classical dance festivals and so on. And at that time, and this is, I'm talking about maybe early 2010s, 2012, 13, that kind of time frame, the art form was still very much unknown here, relatively
Mm-hmm,
unknown.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
uh, People knew about Bharatnatyam, Kuchipudi and
Correct.
Kathak, and so on. But Manipuri was relative. I don't believe we had any trained dancers at that point of time in Bay Area. So somehow, I think we, through our performances, which were appreciated very much at that, it was just something very new and different that the audience kind of loved watching. So that's how I got back into Manipuri dancing back in the Bay Area. And then also around the same time, I also wanted to explore other forms. And I had been kind of doing some dances and with the community and so on.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to get back into another sort of classical form, and I also started training with Niharika Mohanty, who's also leading the Odyssey segment in
Yes.
Ness. So yeah,
Oneness.
that's been my journey. So I do both, and very different dance forms, Odissi, Manipuri. Grace is a common factor, but otherwise, I
Yes.
think, it's so different. And it's challenging to keep up with both forms. But I think, that that's what the fun is all about, right? I mean, the challenge.
Absolutely.
That
So now you have a formal guru to go back to for Odyssey form. But if you ever have to brush up on a Manipuri, how do you, um, do you ever go back to India to learn from somebody, or is there any other guru that you reach out to? How does it work?
So I have, I've still been in touch with my guru Gauridi, and we were very closely also affiliated. So my Guru Gauri Datta,
Mm,
as I mentioned, she was a senior disciple of Guru Bipin Singh, who basically started Manipuri Nartanalaya in Calcutta. He also had his schools in Imphal, Manipur, but Manipuri Nartanalaya was kind of like a big school, and our school, Manipuri Nartan Ashram, was affiliated to that school.
mm,
So, Gauridi, I mean, yes, she's much older now and so on, but we still kind of, I go back. My sister also learned there. So I have actually, when I've gone back home, um, I've talked to her, or maybe, I've done one or two classes here and there. not not so rigidly. I sort of restarted my training here a few years ago with Sri Sanjeev Bhattacharya,
Mm-hmm.
who also has in our similar style, or there are again dance gharanas also within Manipuri with
Mm.
very fine difference. And so Sanjeev Da, so he also has been performing this art, and I went back to him for some time a few years ago and did that training. So it's been through that and through a lot of practice with folks like Chandray and other people in the area that uh, we managed to keep the art form going. Now
Awesome.
again, I think we have music, and sometimes getting that music, getting that traditional music, that's challenging, but that's when we have to kind
Yes.
of reach back into our sort of contacts in India and get all of that. But yeah,
And so do you typically get live orchestra for Manipuri dance, or is it mostly the recording of the music? How does it work?
we've been working a lot with recordings
Mm-hmm.
that we used to dance, uh, like live or orchestra and all that is it's tougher, and often we are on pretty tight timelines ourselves. So we are going with those recordings, or what we have also done here is we have some recordings, maybe we are editing and stitching together some music. So Chandray and I, we've also attempted to go a little bit beyond the traditional items
Mm.
and bring the same classical dance, but often we've choreographed to a bit different kind of music. Just as an
Mm.
example, as Lalita Lavangalata, it's a common, like from the Ashtapadis, right? It's an item that um, Odissi has, Manipuri has, and so on. So we have, and the music is what Chandray and I we did a while back was that we also have newer renditions of Lalita Lavangalata, let's say sung by Kavita Krishnamurti, and and we've gotten our dance, we've adapted the Manipuri dance that we
Mm.
learned to sort of music, because sometimes it's that just brings a new novelty. Like, it is the same dance, but we are adapting that dance to maybe more recent music,
Yeah.
and some that is I don't think anybody has frowned upon it, because often what happens with the traditional items is if you don't have the right music and so on, if you do the traditional item as is, uh, you have to have exactly the right music and so on. And if
Yes.
you don't
Yes.
exactly do that, then what do you do, right? If and you don't want to kind of displease experts and stalwarts who are probably, I
Yes.
mean, now everything is on social media, right? So you have to be careful. So we've always been, I think, um, looking at also looking at how to do things creatively.
Mm-hmm.
You know, bring in just some of that artistic, I would say, freedom into it.
Yes.
So you change the dance style remains exactly the same, but the music might just be a little like we work with slightly different music, and then we stitch in our uh, bowls and everything, and we've done this, we are doing this in Oneness as well.
Got it.
So
Got it.
one also, there is some of that traditional music, but we are stitching it with uh, some of the more some different music as well,
Got it.
but loving the dance in its entirety.
Awesome.
Awesome.
So from Chandri, we got to know a little bit about the Manipuri history, where it
Mhm.
originated from, and how long does it, date back to. I was wondering if you could potentially touch on the Raslila aspect of it. So Manipuri seems to be deeply associated with the Raslila.
Mhm.
For someone encountering Manipuri for the first time, how would you describe Raslila?
Yeah. So Raslila is actually, it is a very integral part of Manipuri dance, and practically like everybody who's a Manipuri dancer would actually be learning some component of the Raslila. So Raslila it depicts the love between Krishna and Radha,
Mm-hmm.
and of course, there are gopis and so on, but it's like this big celebration, and the dance is kind of celebrating this divine love, as well as, just there's a lot of spirituality also there. So when I talk about the love between Krishna and Radha, I mean, there's more kind of divinity
Mm-hmm.
associated with, so divinity and spirituality. So this is more about submission and surrender. So typically, Ras would be, there are again, Ras is characterized by certain kind of costumes and so on, which I'll talk about. But Ras is performed, there are like 5 different types of Ras,
Okay.
or 5 performed at different times. So there's Maharas, and
Mm-hmm.
again, these are all these groupy kind of events. So, happening on full moon nights in temples and so on, and everybody's dancing in this kind of circle all together. There's Krishna, Radha, but there's also all these 8 gopis or so, and so it's this big kind of celebration, and like really this immersive dance experience. That's
Mm-hmm.
how kind of came into being. So there are basically 5 types of ras, and these are happening again different times of the year and so on. So there's Maharas, which is sort of the biggest celebration of all. Maha means grand. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
then Vasantharas is typically during springtime,
Mm-hmm.
celebrating Vasant, Holi, festival of colors,
Yes. Yes.
and Uh, in fact, Vasantharas we are depicting part of that in the Oneness celebration.
Okay.
Then there's Kunjaras. Kunjaras is, it's happens during autumn. This is
Mm.
more of, playing in the gardens and so on, Kunja. Then there's Nityaras. Nityaras is more kind of, the everyday, it can happen anytime. And then Dibaras is uh, happening during the day. So mostly what we learn, most of us, we learn Vasantaras.
Mm-hmm.
And Vasantaras, it's again a very traditional item. As I said, it celebrates spring, colors.
Mm.
So in fact, one of the songs go Khilata Radha Sham Gopini Sang Abira
Mm.
Abira Gulal Mare Jute He Jute. So Krishna and Radha with the Gopinis playing with Abir and Gulal, and it's that whole like celebratory kind of aspect. So as I mentioned, Vasantaras is what we will be showing a part of Vasantaras in Oneness, because
Mm-hmm.
a segment that Manipuri is representing in Oneness is about love, it's about colors and so on. So we felt Vasantaras fitted in very well
Mm-hmm.
with that notion. And then Ras is it's as much about, so there's the dance is of course important, but I think the feeling, the expressions, that's also super important.
Mm-hmm.
And Krishna, Radha, they're dancing, and the gopis. I mean, they're dancing, just being immersed in these divine feeling. The movements are very gentle, very fluid. So Krishna, despite the fact that, Krishna is doing the tandav, which is the, more stronger form in
Mm-hmm.
Manipuri, it doesn't come off as like aggression. Again,
Mm.
the movement still continue very fluid, and Krishna is singing his love, and then he's doing all the sort of nut cut and the char with the gopinis and so on, and then everybody's kind of um, involved in the celebration. The costume of Ras is particularly also very distinct.
Uh-huh.
So many people associate Manipuri with this costume of these drum like skirts. So I'm sure you may have seen the
Yes.
photos also. Somewhere. And that's very distinctively a Ras costume.
Mm,
It's worn by the women at Radha. So it's called poloi,
mm,
and so that is it's like a cylindrical skirt, looks like a drum, and then it is embellished heavily. And typically, Radha would wear a green colored poloi, whereas the gopinis wear red colors of
mm,
poloi. And then of course there's other traditional like ornaments and so on that Radha and the gopinis embellish with. We don't wear foot bells, the ghungroos, as other classical dance forms do. So Manipuri typically we don't wear ghungroos, but we have like other foot ornaments and so on. And then Krishna's costume is also very distinct. Krishna will have typically the yellow dhoti, yellow or orangish kind of dhoti. And there's a very big headgear. Like
mm.
and that is very distinctive in Manipuri. You won't see it in other forms. There's a chura, and maybe, I can show you. I
Yes, I
don't
would
know
love to
if
see that.
you look at it. Yeah, so it is very grand, very gorgeous. And and it sets Ras sort of apart from other dances because in Manipuri, Tandav and Lasya. Lasya is the feminine form of the dance, more subtle movements, whereas Tandav is the more kind of aggressive form of the dance. We learn both, but it is also very distinctive. The costume for each is also very distinct. So Tandav will be more in kind of dhotis and so on, and then
Mm,
Lasya will be more in the skirts. Now, Ras kind of takes that, but it kind of adds in this poloi for the women. Poloi is not
mm-hmm.
something that drum kind of is not something that we typically wear in other Manipuri dance items. It's very specific to Ras. And it's
Mm.
beautiful. And that itself is kind of this feeling of divinity. If you watch the dancers in that costume, and poloi by no means it's kind of an easy costume to dance in. It's heavy.
It's heavy to carry.
So
Yeah.
it is the skirt itself. It's kind of a very made of a very stiff material. Like I think it's cardboard and something like all stitched on it. So you do need assistance for those of us who have danced in it. You need assistance to get into it and so on. And it's hard to kind of carry around. It's heavy, and so
Right.
is the Krishna's headgear. I mean,
Mm.
it is that they do bring in very gorgeous elements to the dance, but also the dancers have to be navigating that very carefully.
Got it. No, thank you so much for a beautiful explanation of what Raslila is. I think I got a pretty good glimpse into it. Um, I was wondering, since you were explaining Raslila extensively, how does this kind of devotion that you show towards the Manipuri dance form, how does that change the way the dancer approaches the practice, especially in a world, the current world, where often it values, speed, high energy performance, but this is such a contrast. How does this change the dancer's perception of how they approach practice or also the performance for that matter?
So to be honest, I mean, I think if I mean Manipuri is generally thought of as very soft, slow, and so on. Now that's not entirely the reality.
Mm,
Again, as I mentioned, Tandav, and we have a Tandav form and we have a Lasya form. And the Lasya form is gentle, subtle, more subtle movements, very fluid, almost like as if, it's like a wave.
hmm,
Even the Tandav can be categorized into when women do Tandav, it's a little bit more like Lasya Tandav. It's a little
mm,
softer version of the Tandav. Tandav is more vigorous and, it's got more energy and you're jumping and you're sitting and um, it's, I would say, a little uh, seen a little less compared to the Lasya form. And then there's the other element of Tandav, which is done by men,
mm,
which has so much technique and so much vigor I cannot even explain. I mean, it actually takes all the a lot of practice and technique and core strength and stability to get to that. Also, I think as easy as the dance form looks, it's actually not. And
Mm,
with firsthand experience, this, and I will tell you about a workshop we did a while back for Oneness. This is I think a couple of years back, and we were trying to do a fundraising thing, and we were doing,
mhm,
and it was a very interesting workshop. So all six styles we were teaching, and we were basically, it was over a day, and we said that, well, students of Odissi or Bharatanatyam, like, you feel free to choose like 3 or 4 workshops
mm,
of
mm,
your choice. It was happening at so it's literally a bit of a it was an introduction kind of thing to the dance form. And dancers who were trained in let's say Bharatnatyam or the Kathak, and all these other forms, they came and they were like, okay, this is so incredibly hard, because
hard.
Manipuri by itself, hard meaning the way, see, I think in some ways, the way the body bends, we have a lot of torso movement,
Mm,
and it's DC torso movement, and it is counterintuitive. It's not the way the body bends is very different for somebody who has never. So first time, I mean, all these dancers, I mean, I will say from going back to that workshop example, all these dancers, they came and they found this like incredibly tough. Then even like with our leg movements, you're not allowed to kind of take the knees apart, right? So the
mm,
knees need to
mm.
be very much
Together.
together. And
Mm,
then there's a lot of the footwork, while not intense as some of the other dance forms, a lot of it, there's a lot of weight shifting, which is happening uh, at the toe joint.
mm,
It's kind of unique, but that's thing, a lot of that fluidity and that lilting, and the dips and the ups, and you will see a
mm.
lot of that. So
Yes.
these things are not very easy, like for the other dance forms, where what we know of traditional footwork and all, it's actually quite different. So I would say, to back to your question, how do we, I mean, in today's time, with speed and everything, how do we keep this up? I mean, it takes a lot of practice, actually. It takes a lot, because you are training your body to do something different. And one thing I've often heard my teachers say, and I say the same thing often, the slowing down things is actually harder, because
Yes.
when you're
Yes.
trying
I
to do
agree.
slow movements, it's a lot more control that you have to exert. And that control does not come easily. It comes with all the years of, sadhana and practice, and, there's no shortcut. So, on the other hand, in today's world of high energy dancing and so on, does Manipuri have a place? I mean, yes, it does. I mean, I think we are seeing a lot of, uh, uh, the new current gen exponents in India. They are trying
Mhm.
to bring in martial arts movements, you know,
Mm, mm,
into traditional Manipuri dancing. There are a lot of, I mean, Guru Bipin Singh, whose Gharana, like I come from, Guru ji really, I think, he modernized Manipuri. He gave it a lot of these speed elements, which
mm.
unfortunately are not, you know, enough by others to know, how fast this dance form can be. And in fact, when I have performed here as well, some folks have, especially when we perform the Tandav aspect, and, there's a lot of like spins and like jumps and leaps, and folks are just surprised. They're like, oh, we didn't even know that this side existed
Mhm,
of
mhm.
Manipuri, because we has that very kind of, soft and graceful, and it is, but it also has this very vigorous and, energetic part. So we're trying to showcase both in Oneness. So while, there will be the Ras Leela and so on, but there are kind of other elements in oneness where we are also trying to bring in Tandav style and basically showcase kind of the contrasts. And yeah, that's and go from there.
Got it. Thank you so much. So, what I'm gathering is this Guru-Shishya Parampara is also very central to Manipuri tradition, just like any other classical dance form. And I was just wondering, how does that, as someone who carries this lineage, how do you think about the responsibility both to preserve the form and to allow it to remain alive? What part of the Manipuri feels essential to protect without compromise, in your opinion? I know that's a lot loaded question.
Yeah, it's a loaded question. I mean, Guru Shishya Parampara, I think the gurus that we learn from, many of them came from that parampara, that age, right? Uh, but now it's, of course, things are more commercial, and I don't know, even in India, how many folks are kind of going through that. But I think the Guru Shishya style, that's meant to kind of inculcate, it's not just an imparting of just skills.
Hmm.
I mean, we learn from teachers, teach about our skills. We know how to do the steps and so on, and some technique. But I think the Guru Shishya part is more about that flow of knowledge from Guru to the Shishya. And so that's how, of course, a lot of uh, established dancers from India, and even like I know in Odissi also foreign dancers like Sharon Lowen and Ileana Chitarsi, they've gone to India and, they've stayed there in the Guru Shishya setup. And I think that really helps in basically getting sort of superlative artists, I would say.
Mm.
I mean, you're
Hmm.
not just a learner, but really somebody who is taking that knowledge from your guru, um, not just performing, but also evolving it to how they can. And that's how I think art lives on. So it's definitely important. I would say in Manipuri, we also had that, uh, like Guru Bipin Singh, for example.
Hmm.
He was came and settled down in Kolkata. Uh, Manipuri Nartanalaya was largely initially that built in that Guru Shishya kind of system. So the dancers would live at his home. They would be kind of, getting trained all day, dance till like wee hours in the night and all. I mean, and be fed and so on and so forth. But it was all about dance. And now I'm not quite sure that's the system. I personally also did not come from the Guru Shishya system.
Okay.
It was just like many of us. But I do feel it's important to kind of get that knowledge flowing, because this is a lot of, you know there's also a lot of, I would say, knowledge from years bygone that stays with the guru, and maybe, it's not written down anywhere. And how does that knowledge kind of come to the shishya? I mean, through all these daily interactions and so on, right?
Hmm.
So it's
Totally.
important from perspective. Yeah.
Thank you. So when you reflect on your own journey, you are a mom and you have another full-time job, and you're practicing this art form and being part of dance groups and performing. What has helped you to stay in relationship with Manipuri over time? And I'm sure you had gone through some struggles and balancing acts that you had to do. What kept you going?
Oh yes. I mean, I think as someone with a full-time job, mom of two kids, uh, it's a struggle to keep up uh, classical dance form, because
Hmm.
again, I think, you can go do, you can dance here and there, dances of, just more the lighter kind of dance. But classical dance, any form of classical dance needs a different rigor and discipline. And Manipuri is no different, right? You want to kind of really do a good job and so on, you really have to be practicing techniques, and all techniques go away. And I do know that because I dance two different classical forms. I mean, there can be also all these form confusions, right? So elements of other form coming into this form versus other, the vice versa. So I've had to make my own sacrifices, like there was a time when I think social engagements and so on, which I gave up a lot of that in my pursuit of dance as a whole. So it was like, okay, you have your work, you tend for your kids, and the other time you have, you devote to dance. Try to get in. Daily practice is hard, but at least if you're trying to do 3 days, that is an achievement. As I've grown older, I think keeping up with the keeping up the physical fitness side is important, because
Yes.
again, as I said, there is an active part of this dance as well. So you don't in order to make sure you don't injure yourself, or the
Yes.
muscles, or your core strength and all, that has been very important. And I didn't realize this when I was younger, but uh, warming up, strengthening, exercising, um, yoga, all of those have
Yes.
been a lot more important to just building myself to for the stamina. And the dance, by the way, the Tandav style of Manipuri requires a lot of stamina, just because of the leaps and jumps and so on, and it can be hard. We also have a movement which is called baglei, where you spin on your knees. You go down on the
Oh,
ground basically,
okay.
and you're kind of movement on your knees. It's something, again, which as a kid you do it very easily, but when you're an older individual, very hard. So again, for those sort of things, I think just keeping it's not just been keeping up dance, but it's all these other complementary kind of activities to enable you to present yourself in the best possible manner. Like you have to find time for all of that as well. So net, I think if somebody is really looking at doing this seriously, it does involve a lot of sacrifice. And I would say one more thing, I think you need a supportive partner. My husband
Yes.
was also has been supportive along the way. Otherwise, it takes time, and your kids need to be looked after and fed and all of that. So I do owe that to my husband for being very supportive with my adult dance career, so to speak.
Absolutely.
Um,
No, that's a very good message.
uh,
Completely agree with you on that. So I'm sure there are days you had that you didn't feel like dancing because maybe you were tired or you're exhausted, whatever it could be. What was there any specific routine or some protocol that you followed to help you motivate?
yes, I think tiredness does take over, and I have those days as well. I'm sure all of us do. um I think I have to push myself on those
Hmm.
days, meaning, yeah, I'm trying to do this 7 days a week. I mean, I do need my rest days, I do need some break, but I think I do also see, after dance, I feel, I mean, my body feels good, mentally I feel good. I also feel like uh, your memory powers and all get better. I mean,
Hmm.
some say those rust, but in dance in general, and I'm talking this for maybe any form of dance. I mean, classical dance items are fairly long, and you have to remember and memorize and so on and so forth. And I feel like doing that also, I think, helps your kind of memory powers in different ways.
Hmm. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
often, my mother, she asked me, how do you even remember? And I'm like, I don't find that so much of a challenge now. It's just like it comes very naturally. But mostly, I think, on those days of feeling tired, I think I know that if I dance, my body's going, like, the adrenaline rush that does happen. So even if I'm feeling very tired before, like after the routine, I feel really good, and so on. So I push myself then, and I obviously if there are performances, I think the push comes a little easier than, like, if there are no
Right.
performances. Like, just practice it for the heck of it doesn't always happen. So performance that way is a motivator for kind of that constant practice.
Right.
But yes, um, I think, it's like everything. And so even if I cannot dance, as I said, even if I'm doing one of the other activities, the strengthening, the core exercise and all, I feel like, even that's that is doing something to sort of the larger dancing effort.
Got it. Got it. So let's say for someone who might be listening to this and feels drawn to learning Manipuri, but unsure where to begin, what would you tell them?
I think I would just say, uh, find one of us, like, especially if the
Yeah,
person,
sure. Yeah.
again, I haven't found. There are internet resources now, but I would say just find, if you are really interested in exploring the dance style, find somebody. I think the workshop that I was talking about, which we did, with kind of the oneness, that was done for oneness as a fundraising for oneness. But that was a great opportunity for some folks to just explore the basics of the dance style
Hmm.
and see, if it was, how difficult or easy that was. And we have had, like, lately, I think, I have seen some folks, folks here who are more interested in trying it out. They're coming, trying. I think the challenge is, again, the pressures of work and family and all are tying down a lot of these people. They're in different stages of life. But again, that's where I think individually everybody is different. So how serious you want it to, like, how serious you want to pursue
Something.
not
Yeah.
just Manipuri or any classical dance, that is really something that you have to be very clear about. But if you want to, find, there's Chandray, there's myself, there are a couple others in the area who are very trained. And then also, we have, so I think there are some opportunities for trying it out in person. I mean, while internet resources are there, I think those are a little bit for folks maybe who have had some
Some
learning or so
training.
on, or they
Mm.
try to brush up. They're not, yeah, they're not great for, I think, imparting the technique, because the dance has a lot of, like, technical aspects as well. So, and give it a try and see if you like it or not. I mean, I'm
Absolutely.
quite, but if you ask me, I'm very interested about turning, like, again, trying out new forms, and I've done my own exploration with other contemporary forms and so on and so forth. Um, I think, it's hard to find dancers who are versatile, right? So versatility is also, um, a key, and some folks are just amenable to trying out new things, whereas some want to go maybe just deep with an art form, and nothing wrong with that. But give
Right.
it a try.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talked a lot about oneness. What is oneness?
So oneness, I mean, it's actually a dance theater production that we're bringing. It's a collaboration of 6 Indian classical dance styles. So, um, in the same program, you get to see Manipuri, you get to see Odissi, Bharatnatyam, Kathak, Mohiniyattam, and Kuchipudi. So it's a very, I would say, it's going to be a very stunning and spectacular, production. And this is a team that we came together, I think, 10 years before. We did something called, we put together, uh, a production called Sahanartana,
Mm.
which means all of us got together. So we
Mm-hmm.
did a similar collaboration, and the same team is again coming, and we have Guru Niharika Mohanty for Odissi, Deepa Mahadevan for Bharatnatyam, Bindu Pratap for Mohiniyattam, Madhuri Kishore for Kuchipudi, Anupama Srivastava for Kathak, and then Chandray Mukherjee and myself, Mousumi, for Manipuri. So we are the artistic directors, and then we are bringing our team, our dance companies together, and so it's just a celebration of again the season of spring, of
Mm.
hope, renewal, sharing. What ties all of us together, kind of our shared
Yes.
human connection, and so on. And in a world that's very divisive, I think,
Mm-hmm.
oneness has a very important message,
Message.
and that being the message, like shared humanity, which we are hoping to bring through our respective, dance forms. So it's a very interesting production. We all have our individual dance forms, but we do a lot of collaboration, and there are some items that are involving collaboration of all the six styles together, whereas some will
Nice.
involve collaboration of two styles. So all these efforts are, and these are pretty significant efforts, because when you try to kind of do these fusion choreographies and so on, it's hard. Like, you need to look similar, but you need to stick to your form. um, and But forms are also very different, I mean, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, this
Mm-hmm.
every form has its own specific technique, and what you can do and what you cannot do. So being sort of confined to those tenets and principles, and yet trying to do something that looks similar and cohesive, I think that's incredibly challenging. But I say, when the final product is there, I think it's going to be super rewarding as well, because
Absolutely.
our practices wonderfully well. It's a lot of brainstorming and so on, but I think the final product is going to be um, very spectacular and well received.
Awesome. And I was telling the previous dancers who I interviewed on this podcast that I definitely plan to be there on the February 7th, and I'm looking forward to meeting all of you in person too. So that'll be fantastic. Maushami, thank you so much. I learned a lot about Manipuri and also about you and oneness. I'm really looking forward to it.
Thank you so much, Deepa. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining me today. If this inspired you, please like, share, and subscribe.